If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Before we get started with today's video, I have an announcement to make. After years of telling other people's stories, I finally released one of my own. My novel Eternal Reign is available now in both ebook and paperback format for those of you who are like me and prefer to collect physical media. You can grab a copy right now on Amazon through the link in the description of this video. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. For the universe to exist, there must be balance in all things. If there's light, there must be darkness. If there's good, there has to be evil, and so on and so forth. The Charred Council are a group that was ordered by the Creator to maintain that balance, but they failed. The balance has been broken. Earth is in ruins, and demons are setting up new kingdoms on the planet. The Council and pretty much everyone else is blaming the Horseman War for this, saying that he started the apocalypse by going to Earth when he wasn't supposed to, and now all of humanity is dead. All four horsemen, War, Fury, Strife, and Death, were supposed to go together at the right time to do battle on Earth, but none of the others were anywhere to be seen. The horsemen are Nephilim, half angel, half demon creatures. They're the last of their kind, but there used to be a lot of them. Their race destroyed countless realms until 4 of them started to think that what they were doing may ruin the balance. So they went to the Charred Council, and in exchange for a large power boost, they became the Council's enforcers. Their first mission was to wipe out their own kind and destroy their souls so they couldn't be reborn. They did their job even though they didn't want to. Now that War's head may be on the chopping block for a crime that he didn't commit, Death has set off on a mission of his own that he hopes will save his brother's life. And that mission is to find a way to resurrect humanity. He has no idea how to do that, so he's gone to talk to the Keeper of Secrets, a man known as the Crowfather, to hopefully get the information that he needs. The Crowfather isn't exactly eager to help Death, since the last time he did a favor for the Horsemen it didn't end well. He does know that Death has come to him because of his brother's less than pleasant situation, but he doesn't care about what happens to War even though he knows that he's innocent, not like it matters. According to him, the Charred Council is going to let War rot in oblivion to hide whatever's really going on. When Death tells the Keeper of Secrets that he's not trying to convince anyone of his brother's innocence and his real goal is to undo his crime by reviving humanity, the Crowfather starts to think that Death is crazy. He doesn't think the mission is impossible though, but to succeed at it, Death will need to go to the Tree of Life. The Crowfather can open a portal to the world that houses the tree, but he will only do it if Death takes the amulet that he'd given to the man back. The amulet that just so happens to be full of all of the Nephilim souls. They've been making noise for so long that the Crowfather is starting to go crazy. The two of them had made a deal in the past where the Crowfather could learn the secrets of the amulet if he kept it, so Death doesn't want to take it back. It needs to be destroyed, but even though he was able to kill his people, Death can't bring himself to destroy their souls. While he doesn't want to destroy the amulet, he will kill the Crowfather if he won't open a portal for him. He refuses and transforms into War to fight Death. If he thought doing that would make Death hold back, he was wrong, and he gets thoroughly beaten. As he dies, he breaks the amulet and lodges the pieces into Death's chest. But with his death, a portal opens and yanks the Horseman into a world that is on the verge of being destroyed. Death wakes up to see an old maker named Idiard standing over him. The old maker knows where the Tree of Life is, but his entire world is being consumed by something he calls corruption, and it will eventually kill everything on the planet, including the Tree of Life. When it dies, the last of the makers will die soon after. They don't know where this corruption comes from, but it takes over whatever it comes in contact with and twists it into a violent abomination. Something Death experiences firsthand when some of the Maker's creations attack him. He deals with them, but the old Maker lets him know that fighting the individual corrupted creatures won't do anything. There's a Maker working at a forge in the nearby settlement that may be able to help him get to the Tree of Life, if he helps her get something called the Fire of the Mountain. So he goes to see her after the old Maker lets him know that something evil and powerful has been living inside of the tree. So even if he gets through the corruption, he'll still have to deal with whatever that is if he wants to revive humanity. There are other Makers at the camp, all fighting the corruption in whatever way they can, but the one he needs is Alia. The forge she's working on isn't the one that the Makers use to create their wonders. The corruption taking over the land has shut that forge down. Seeing as how they had used that to make the cities of both heaven and hell, the thing is pretty useful to have up and running. Getting the Fire of the Mountain is the first step toward restarting it. Death isn't all that excited about wasting his time doing fetch quests for people, but the only way the Makers can help him get to the tree is with their forge, and to turn it back on he needs to restart the lava flow from the mountain. Before their forge had been turned off, the Makers had been building a giant colossus to fight the corruption. Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to finish it. They need to make something called the Maker's Key to turn it on, and they need the forge to do it, so Death heads to the temple known as the Cauldron so he can deal with whatever's blocking the lava flow. The place is full of traps meant to keep people out, so it won't be an easy task, not like the horseman cares. Outside of the cauldron, Death runs into another maker who was trying to restart the forge himself. He's in the middle of dealing with a lot of corrupted constructs, so Death helps him clear them out. Karn had planned on being the hero who restarted the forge, but he knows his own limits, so he's perfectly fine with letting Death stumble around in the cauldron alone. The place is definitely not safe, but after making his way through the building and putting down a lot of corrupted creatures, Death releases the lava, getting the first part of the forge back up and running. Aelia is happy to see the fire flowing back to the forge, but before it can be fully operational, Death has to get the Tears of the Mountain next, and that's locked away in an equally dangerous place called the Drench Fort. He goes there and he once again runs into Karn. The Drench Fort was the first place to get taken over by the corruption, so the makers had sealed it to keep it from spreading. Karn opens the way for Death and he heads in to restore the Tears. The place is dangerous, but there's no reason the makers couldn't restore the water flow themselves, since they're not exactly weak. Maybe they just wanted to make someone else do the job for them. Either way, Death deals with the creatures inside and restores the waters to the forge. Aelia and her brother immediately get to work making the key that Death needs to restore the Guardian. As no surprise to anyone, the foundry where it's stored got overrun before they could fully finish building the thing. There is a construct in the forest that hasn't been taken over by corruption. The Maker's Key can turn it on, and it'll be able to get Death to the foundry so he can finish the Guardian and use it to clear a path to the Tree of Life. When Death wakes up the Giant Warden and lets it know what happened to the world, it's more than happy to take him to the foundry, and Karn decides to tag along since he figures that Death may need his help to get the Guardian up and running. The thing is humongous, and it's missing the 3 Heartstones that power it. They're located around the foundry, they just need to be found, so after fighting through a lot of unsavory creatures, Death and Karn get them. 2 of the stones are fine, but one of them is corrupted. Death thinks that the power of the 2 pure gems will counter the effects of the corrupted one, and he's completely wrong. Instead of coming to life to help, the Guardian gets corrupted and starts making its way to the Maker's camp to destroy it. By the time Death gets there, Thane has been thoroughly beaten by the corrupted Guardian, and Idir is trying unsuccessfully to hold the thing off. There's no way for the Horseman to stop it without destroying it, so he does what he needs to. But he still needs it to get to the Tree of Life, so Idir uses his life energy to resurrect the Guardian and remove the corruption from it. Once the Guardian is back up, it clears a path to the Tree of Life, but it dies in the process. When Death gets to the tree, he gets snatched inside of it, and he finally gets to see the source of the corruption, Absalom, the very first Nephilim. He's not exactly happy about the fact that Death turned on him and his people. When Death killed him, his soul became corrupted, and he planted himself inside of the Tree of Life so he could use the fact that the tree is connected to all worlds to spread his influence everywhere, and nothing, not the angels, demons, Nephilim, or the Charred Council can stop him. To prove his power over the tree, he uses it to send Death to the world of the dead, a place that is much easier to get to than it is to leave. When Death pops out in the kingdom of the dead, the first thing he sees is a weird goat man who is curious to find out what made one of the horsemen come there by choice. When he finds out that Death had been going to the Tree of Life, not the land of the dead, he explains to him that the tree isn't somewhere that you go to unless you're trying to use it to get somewhere else. It's like an airport that connects a lot of places, and the person who goes there is only headed there to leave. Death isn't happy about the fact that the Crowfather didn't tell him that, but it wasn't like they were friends, so he shouldn't have been surprised. However, the goat man, Ostagoth, is pretty sure that using the tree is going to help the horseman complete his mission of restoring humanity, since it can take him to the Well of Souls. That's where the dead from every world goes until it's time for them to be reincarnated. So if Death wants to restore humanity, he'll have to go there. The portal to the Well of Souls isn't one that's open to just anyone though. If Death wants to find out how to get there, he'll have to go to the Eternal Throne and talk to the Lord of Bones. If he can convince him to not take his soul for bothering him, he might help him reach his destination. The Eternal Throne isn't the easiest place to reach since it's being pulled through the air by some very large creatures. But once Death gets there, he has to deal with another problem. Anyone who wants to talk to the Lord of Bones has to get approval from his Chancellor, and he's willing to let Death get an audience with the king if he goes to the Gilded Arena and beats the champion. He's actually trying to get Death killed since he doesn't think he has what it takes to beat the champion, but the horseman isn't worried. When he gets to the arena, they make him do a bit of item gathering before he finally gets the champion into the ring, where he thoroughly pummels it and takes its skull back to the Chancellor as proof that he won. The Chancellor can't believe that he won the fight, but a deal's a deal, so he lets him see the king, who is even less happy to see the horseman. He is happy to finally know why the souls of the Nephilim had never gone through his realm though. That would have been hard for them to do since they're stuck in the amulet in Death's chest. Because everything in the universe is really obsessed with the number 3. 3 of the king's top servants have left their post and gone off to do their own thing around the realm. The dead king wants Death to bring them all back to him, and if he does that, he'll tell him how to get to the Well of Souls. They're not exactly going to come willingly, but the king gives Death a tool that will force them to cooperate. All 3 of them put up quite a fight, but not enough of one to keep them from getting dragged back to their master, where he destroys them for not doing their job. He does honor his deal, and he sends Death to the person who knows how to get to the Well of Souls. He's in the city of the dead, and he just so happens to be one of the people that Death sent there, the Crowfather. You would think that getting unalived by the horseman would have left him with a bit of a grudge, but he's perfectly fine with helping Death reach the well. Unfortunately, it isn't as simple as walking up to the door and opening it. Death needs a key that was split in half to make sure no one got it. One half was given to the angels and kept in their world, and the demons got the other half. Since it was pretty much guaranteed that they would never work together, the Well of Souls would never be reached by anyone living. The only way for Death to get there is to go back to the Tree of Life and teleport to the other worlds, a process that the Crowfather is willing to help him with. But he does let the horseman know that if he really wants to restore humanity, he will have to do what he has been trying to avoid and sacrifice the souls of the Nephilim at the well. Once the Crowfather shows the horseman how to use the tree to get to the realm of the angels, they arrive in Lost Light, one of the angels' bases that's a good distance away from heaven itself. It's also where they've put their half of the key. Even though it's not likely that any angel would work with the demons, that doesn't mean there aren't a few who would have tried to find a way to use the key for their own purposes, so it was better to keep it somewhere that no one would look. Speaking of purposes outside of the original mission, Death has finally started thinking about the fact that the Well of Souls could be used to bring back the Nephilim. That's why the information on it had been kept hidden from the horsemen so they wouldn't get any ideas. Of course, if Death brings them back, not only will War get executed, the balance will be shattered, so it's a very good chance that he won't do that. Absalom's corruption has spread even to the realm of the angels, which means Death has to put a lot of the corrupted angels down. However, some of them aren't corrupted, and they're happy to have one of the horsemen there to help deal with this problem. One of these uncorrupted angels is Nathaniel. He was a member of the Hell Guard during the Nephilim War, but now he guards Lost Light in the Archon, whose job is to record everything that he sees happening in the land of the demons, so the angels will have plenty of time to prepare a counterattack. Nathaniel had already figured out that for Death to be there, he must have come for the key, so for that he'll have to talk to the Archon. The Archon isn't willing to give up the key without getting a favor from the horsemen because no one does anything for free. Pretty much all of heaven is corrupted, and there's nothing he can do about it since some of their most powerful relics got lost when the war on Earth started. If he had the Rod of Araphel, he could undo the corruption, but it's on Earth, and any angel who goes there can never go back to the White City. If Death goes to Earth and gets it, then the Archon will clear a path to the Citadel where the key is. There are only a few ways to get to Earth, since the Charred Council destroyed most of the paths to keep everyone from going there and messing up the balance. But the Archon has a portal, and he uses it to send Death there. The Earth is in bad shape. The humans that are left have been turned into undead monstrosities, and Uriel and the Hellguard are there fighting them. Demons are there fighting too, and when Death sees Uriel about to get killed, he decides to help her and the other angels push the creatures back. Uriel's grateful for Death's help, but she really wants to kill him because of what War did to Earth. Since Death risked himself to save her, she decides not to blame him for what she thinks his brother did. That's a good thing since she knows what happened to the rod. The Archon Hestus had brought it to Earth so he could use it on the demons, but he died and the rod was broken. The leader of the demon army, a being called the Destroyer, took the pieces and started using them to make his troops stronger. It can be put back together, but Death will have to fight through hordes of creatures to get to the pieces. Uriel can't spare any of her own troops for the hunt, so Death will have to go alone. He's perfectly fine with doing that, so after adding Uriel's gun to his arsenal of weapons, the horseman heads off to track down the pieces of the staff. After fighting through thousands of creatures, Death gets his hands on all 3 of the pieces, and the staff merges, restoring itself to full power. Uriel's got half a mind to try and convince Death to use the staff to help fight the Destroyer, but she's got a feeling that won't end well, so she decides against it. The horseman would have been willing to do it regardless, if he didn't need to save his brother. Uriel has a lot of respect for Death, but she lets him know that if she ever sees his brother, she will make him pay for what he did to Earth since she thinks he's responsible for it. She honestly doesn't think she'll live long enough to see that threat through, since she has nowhere to retreat to, and it's only a matter of time before the demons wipe the Hellguard out. With the rod in hand, Death goes back to the Archon, who uses it to clear a path to the Citadel like he said he would. He even calls a griffin for Death to ride and tells him to talk to the scribe in the citadel. He'll be able to point Death in the right direction. The scribe is corrupted, so he attacks Death, but after the horseman smacks him around a bit, he's freed from the corruption and more than willing to tell him what happened to the key. It turns out that when the corruption hit the citadel, angels started fighting each other. The Archon, the one who Death just gave the very powerful rod to, was the first one to get corrupted, and he started the spread and the fighting in the citadel while claiming that he was the only one that wasn't corrupted. When he left and went to the Crystal Spire, he took the key with him, so Death goes to get it back. He doesn't give it up willingly, so Death does what he's known for and takes it from his dead body, before heading back to the tree to go and get the other key from the realm of the demons. The corruption hit their realm too, but the key is being held by a very powerful demon who probably had too much strength to be corrupted, and will likely not be willing to hand over his key to the horseman. The demon who has it is Samael, and he keeps it in his castle called the Black Stone, along with a lot of other valuable artifacts. Ostrogoth had come there to trade with him, but he thinks that something must have happened to Samael because the demon would have never let his realm deteriorate the way that it has. When Death makes it to Samael's throne, he figures out why the realm was allowed to fall to the corruption. Samael's not there, and Lilith, the woman who created Absalom by merging an angel and a demon, is running things. She thinks that the reason Death didn't destroy the souls of his brethren is because he was planning on reviving them all along. She's willing to help him reach the Well of Souls, since she thinks he'll revive the Nephilim with it, but Samael's not there, and the key is missing. Lilith has a way around that little inconvenience though. She gives Death the ability to go back in time to before Samael's fortress fell. That way he can see if he can find the key. The problem with that is with him going back to before the fortress fell, Samael is there, and since he's one of the most powerful demons around, he not only instantly recognizes that Death is from the future, he knows that the Charred Council didn't send him. When the horseman asks him for the key, Samael says that he can have it if he's strong enough to take it. He's not nearly strong enough to kill the demon, but when he manages to cut Samael, the demon gives the horseman the key just because he's curious to see what happens when he gets to the well and has to fight Absalom. With both pieces of the key, Death heads into the tree to face the first Nephilim and decide whether he will restore humanity or the Nephilim. Just like he did during the Nephilim War, Death defeats Absalom, and by killing him, he not only stops the spread of the corruption, but he clears his path to the well. The Crowfather lets him know that if he revives the humans, it will destroy the Nephilim souls permanently. To save war, he's okay with that, so Death dives into the well and destroys the souls of his people to start the process of resurrecting humanity, to undo the crime that his brother was accused of. This concludes the story of Darksiders 2. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time.